The Anima and Animus, the twin mirrors of the psyche. Introduction. The human psyche is not one mind, but many voices conversing beneath our consciousness. Carl Jung once said that within every man lives a feminine image, and within every woman, a masculine presence. These are not just poetic ideas. They are psychological realities shaped by evolution, myth, culture, and the unconscious. This video will take you on a deep exploration through the mysterious worlds of the Anima and Animus, Jung's archetypes that bridge consciousness and the unconscious, linking reason with instinct and identity with soul. By the end, you won't simply understand them as theories. You'll see how they shape your relationships, creativity, spirituality, and shadow work journey. Let's begin. Part 1. The Genesis of the Archetypes. Long before Jung named them, the concepts of the feminine and masculine soul existed in human stories. Across cultures, mythology mirrors these archetypes. Yin and Yang in Taoism, Shiva and Shakti in Hinduism, Adam and Eve in Christianity, and countless pairs of gods and goddesses symbolizing the interplay between the active and receptive forces of life. Jung, through decades of studying dreams, symbols, and myths, noticed a repeating pattern. Each person seemed to carry within them an unconscious image of the opposite gender. He called the feminine image within a man the anima, and the masculine image within a woman the animus. But these aren't stereotypes of gender. They are living forces, psychic patterns that shape how we relate to ourselves and others. The anima connects a man to his inner world of feeling, intuition, and creativity. The animus connects a woman to her inner drive, reason, and spiritual authority. Jung believed that to become whole, to individuate, we must encounter, confront, and integrate these inner counterparts. Part 2. The Anima, the bridge to the soul. Let's begin with the anima. Jung described her as the mediator to the unconscious. She is the internal guide that helps a man connect to emotional truth and intuition, much like a bridge from the thinking mind to the unseen depths. In myth, she appears as goddesses, muses, mermaids, or magical women who lead the hero through his trials. In dreams, she may appear as a mysterious woman, a lover, a mother, or a wise figure, depending on the man's stage of development. Jung identified 4 main stages in anima development. Eve, representing instinct, desire, and biological attraction. Here, the anima is purely physical and emotional. Helen, symbolizing beauty, creativity, and romantic allure. The man projects his anima onto idealized love. Mary, embodying virtue, compassion, and devotion. The emotional life deepens. Sophia, the final phase, wisdom itself. The anima becomes an inner guide to meaning, not an object of projection. When undeveloped or repressed, the anima can sabotage relationships, manifesting as mood swings, irrational emotions, or unhealthy idealization of women. When integrated, she becomes an ally of creativity, intuition, and empathy. Neuroscientifically, this mirrors the right brain's role in imagination and emotional integration. The anima can be seen as the psyche's invitation to reconnect with the limbic system and creative neural networks that Western culture often neglects. Part 3. The Animus, the logos within. Now let's turn to the animus, the male counterpart within the female psyche. Where the anima is emotional and fluid, the animus is structured and assertive. A force of logos, a rational form of discourse that relies on inductive and deductive reasoning, a force of logic, and force of spirit. Jung described the animus as the voice of inner conviction. He gives strength, purpose, and direction. But when unconscious, he becomes rigid, dogmatic, and controlling. The animus also develops through stages, paralleling the anima's journey. The man of physical power. He appears as an athlete, warrior, or hero figure representing action and vitality. The man of words, the stage of intellectual achievement, rhetoric, and opinion. the man of ideals, embodying moral conviction and spiritual authority. The man as mediator of meaning, representing a connection to a higher wisdom, where the woman's inner masculine becomes a guide to truth, not domination. In a modern sense, the animus relates to the prefrontal cortex, our seat of reason, planning, and assertive thought. Integrating the animus is integrating our capacity for focus, vision, and inner authority. Part 4. Projection and Relationship. One of Jung's most powerful ideas was that we don't fall in love with people, we fall in love with our projections. The anima and animus are often projected onto romantic partners, shaping attraction and emotional drama. A man may see his anima in a woman, placing upon her all his unconscious ideals of beauty, mystery, and redemption. A woman may see her animus in a man, projecting strength, insight, and guidance. The problem arises when the real person cannot live up to the archetype. Disappointment, jealousy, or resentment follow, not because the love was false, but because it was never grounded in reality. This is how the psyche calls us back inward. We must reclaim our projections, realizing that what we adored or despised in others existed within us all along. In doing so, relationships transform from dependency to mutual growth, from projection to partnership. Part 5. The Dance of Shadow and Soul. The anima and animus often intertwine with the shadow. For men, repressing the anima often leads to emotional numbness or toxic control, traits linked to an unintegrated shadow. He may mock vulnerability or secretly long for connection while fearing it. For women, repressing the animus may lead to passivity, indecision, or dependency, while the shadow animus manifests as anger or criticism. Shadow work invites both genders and all genders to explore these repressed energies consciously. Integrating the anima means accepting emotion, depth, and receptivity. Integrating the animus means accepting logic, assertiveness, and authority. The balance of both brings inner harmony, what Jung called the conjunctio, the sacred union of opposites. Part 6. The Neuroscience of Integration. Jung's symbolic framework now finds echoes in brain science. Modern neuroscience reveals that mental health depends on balanced cooperation between neural networks. The left hemisphere governs logic, language, and structure, the animus principle. The right hemisphere governs emotion, empathy, and imagination, the anima principle. Emotional integration occurs when the corpus callosum, the bridge between hemispheres, facilitates communication between them, just as the anima and animus unite psyche and soul. Meditation, journaling, and deep relational connection activate this integration, creating coherence in the mind's electrical rhythms, a neurobiological mirror of Jung's symbolic union. Part 7. Symbols and Myths of Integration. Across myths, this union appears repeatedly. In Greek myth, Psyche unites with Eros after descending into the underworld, a symbol of integrating love and soul. In alchemy, the conjunctio unites Sol and Luna, the king and queen, to create the philosopher's stone. In tantric philosophy, Shiva and Shakti unite to transcend duality, representing consciousness and energy. Each myth encodes the same psychological truth. We must marry opposites within ourselves before we can experience wholeness externally. Part 8. Modern Reflections Beyond Gender. Today, Jung's anima and animus must be understood psychologically, not biologically. They are not male or female. They are forces, poles of energy, within every psyche. Modern individuation means balancing doing and being, logic and intuition, reason and feeling, regardless of gender or identity. A non-binary or gender-fluid perspective actually aligns well with Jung's deeper point. The self transcends duality. When we integrate both aspects, we move toward the archetype of the self, the totality of the psyche. Part 9. Practicing Integration. How can you begin integrating these energies? Observe your projections. Notice who fascinates or irritates you. Those feelings often carry the anima or animus energy you've suppressed. Dialogue with the inner figure. Through active imagination or journaling, personify your inner masculine or feminine voice and ask what it wants to express. Balance your inner life. If you're overly rational, invite creativity. If you're deeply emotional, cultivate structure. Embody wholeness through ritual. Meditation, art, or body movement rituals can symbolically unite these energies within you. Over time, you'll feel a quiet transformation, a sense of inner balance, creative flow, and soulful awareness replacing inner conflict. Closing reflections. The eternal dialogue within. The journey of the anima and animus is not a one-time revelation. It's a lifelong conversation. Every relationship, dream, or emotion invites you to deepen that dialogue. Your anima calls you toward empathy and art. Your animus calls you toward truth and vision. Together they form the two wings of the psyche, balancing soul and mind. So as you walk into your own night of the soul, remember, the divine feminine and masculine are not outside you. They are within, waiting to be united in awareness. This is what it means to decode your mind, to uncover the hidden architecture of the soul. If you appreciate this content, don't forget to subscribe and go check my Decode Your Mind playlist for more. See you next time on My Way.